Welcome to Creativity-Hive's weekly program. My name is Miriam Haugen. I'm part of the Creativity-Hive team. We help creatives learn to make impactful storytelling videos through one-on-one teaching, live group coaching, and live boot camps. Our weekly hangout brings people working in video and related industries from across the globe. So be sure to leave a comment if you're watching and let us know where you're from. If you want us, we'd love to hear from you. So today we are talking with Catie Grant, who is the director of a very unique agency that I would love to hear about. But first, we want to hear about you. What's your story?
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. Let's see, it's kind of a winding history to get to where I am now, which I'm sure a lot of people.
That's always interesting to me. How do you get where you are?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people, particularly in communications fields or especially video production fields, their paths go like this. So I graduated in 2005 from Penn State with a degree in film. And fortunately, my parents were really supportive. I never got the questions of like, what are you going to do with a film degree? They knew I'd figure out something. So the first year or so was, working in a hotel, trying to make some money. And then fortunately, I was hired by my future father-in-law's production company to do some freelance work through PBS. So doing long form documentary work. I'd always been interested in documentary style productions when I was in school. So I did that for a few years and then realized that freelance lifestyle wasn't so much for me, wasn't great for my anxiety. I wanted to be a consistent paycheck coming in the door.
Yeah.
So
that inconsistency.
Yeah, some people are great with it. I'm like, nope, I tried it. Not for me. So then I was fortunate enough to start working at our local PBS affiliate, WPSU, here in State College, Pennsylvania, where I'm based. But my job actually was a really interesting part of production I never knew about, which was client-based work. So within WPSU, they have a creative services department, which essentially functioned as a production outlet for Penn State related projects. So different colleges and institutes and campuses would come to us saying, we need donor relations videos, recruitment videos, informational videos. So it was an interesting way to kind of combine my love of documentary and talking to real people, but that extra wrinkle of client-based work, which I had never done before. When you do client work, it is very different from, what you may be able to do as kind of your own passion project and getting grant funds for that. So I did that for about 9 years. I was fortunate enough to be able to work my way up from AP to senior producer and work on a lot of great projects and learn all about client work and budgeting and working with teams, directing, producing, writing, editing, all of those things. And it was kind of just a happenstance thing that I found out about this position that was created in the Belisario College at Penn State. So my boss at the time at WPSU, Mindy McMahon, who's a mentor of mine and I love her, she was part of this university-wide committee that the Belisario College had put together about, hey, we want to create this learning environment for our students to take what they're learning in the classroom and get them this client experience. That was our Dean, Dee Marie Harden's idea. So she had this working group put together. It just so happened, Mindy, my boss, went on maternity leave. So she asked me to sit in on these meetings. So I'm sitting in this meeting and I'm thinking to myself, oh no, I really want to apply for this job. It sounds awesome. They actually want to create this opportunity for students to work with clients that I do all the time. So I ended up having to reach out to Mindy and say, this is awkward, but I need to recuse myself from the committee because I'm going to apply for this job. And she was super supportive, which is one of the things I can't thank her enough for, because she was so supportive with like, yeah, go for it. Right. This sounds great. So I gave it a shot. I'd never taught before. I managed our interns at WPSU, but that was pretty much the most interaction I had with students. So I was like, let's give it a shot. I don't know if I'm qualified, but I've got some ideas. Let's pitch them. So I got to the in-person interview, did my whole spiel, and then got a call from Dean Harden a couple of weeks later offering me the position. And that's how I got started in this teaching and academia track within the college. And 6 months later, CommAgency opened. We launched. So it's been a great 6 years since then. But if you had asked me when I graduated college, do you want to teach? I've been like, no, I'm not qualified for that. So it's just kind of how the path went. Just those little things that open up, and if you're open to them and want to give them a shot, it worked out. So
that is great. Well, I know I'm going to bring Mo and Neil on because hello guys.
Hello. Hi, Catie.
Hi.
So one thing that struck me when you were talking is, now you just have a bachelor's degree, is that right?
I did get a master's degree in higher education, actually wrapped up right in May 2020. So I never got to like walk across the stage, but I got my graduation. Right. So I did get my master's in that once I started in academia, kind of realizing, okay, there's a certain ceiling here, so I want to make sure I can advance. Yeah.
Right. That makes sense, because if there's been this discussion that we've had at various times with various guests we've had on. Is it important to go to film school? And I think for your path, absolutely. You needed an academic degree, or else you never would have had your foot in the door, I think. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I would. And a lot of that depends on where I think you want to work. For me, when I wanted to get that job at WPSU, it was, bachelor's degree or equivalent. So in that regard, working in higher ed, yeah, I needed that.
And this is one of those things where when you're out in doing jobs like trying to work for some post-processing house somewhere or a network facility or something, you may have someone in charge who they went to film school, so they like to have film school people there. But that's no guarantee, because I've talked with people that are going, yeah, I've been to film school. It was a total waste of time. I would rather have someone that's been out working and learned how it's actually done than film school. And so, within the university system, those degrees are that's really needed. And outside,
yeah,
it's a two-edged sword. It can work for you or it can work against you. And so at that point, I think it's kind of a do what comes naturally to you to try and just get it.
That is an excellent segue, I think, into talking about the CommAgency, because
so
you have a really cool thing going on there. So tell us
and
about
I think
that.
To your point, Neil, like, I think so much of whether you've gone to film school and you have the degree, or you graduated high school and you just want to get into it, you still have to prove you can do it, and not only do it, but like have the work ethic and the mentality that the days are going to be long, and you want to be the first one in, last one out, like as you're trying to build that reputation for yourself. That hard work translates regardless of if you have a degree or not. But that's one of the reasons why CommAgency was created, because we had outstanding students and outstanding programs, but there was a disconnect between, we're in State College, Pennsylvania, right? I mean, it's a great place, but it's not a city. So there aren't multitude of production opportunities, particularly during the school year. So we have students who go everywhere during the summer, but if they want to get that on-campus opportunities, there aren't many. There are some, but it's a limited amount. So
I did
that's one of the things that,
people around the world that may not understand. State College, Pennsylvania, the reason the town is named that way is because it's the home to Penn State University, and the entire community has grown up around this rather large university. So everything that's there is pretty much there because these are supporting people for the university. It's not there because it's a city on its own.
Yes, that's valid. So anyone who's not familiar with Pennsylvania State University, if you look at a map of Pennsylvania in the United States and you point to the very middle of the state, that's State College. We're about 3.5 hours from Philly, 3 hours from Pittsburgh, 4 hours from New York, and in the middle of a lot of farm. So yeah, it's really here because of the largest of all of Penn State campuses, University Park, is right here in State College. So there are some great opportunities, but certainly not like being in a more of a production hub, you know, New York, LA, Atlanta, those places. So the idea for CommAgency came about because I was like, okay, we've got students who've got this great education. How can we give them an opportunity during the school year to work with real clients, have that little extra stakes behind their work of what it's like to work with clients, and pay their students. So our students get paid for this work. So it was really a great opportunity for me to kind of pitch, as having done this for my career. Okay, here are the things the students need to learn, right? It's not only being able to work in teams and meet deadlines, which they have to do for their classes, but it is, how do you communicate with clients? How do you prep for a client meeting? How do you keep them up to date? How do you make sure that what you're presenting and your creativity is also checking off all of these client boxes? Because you can have a great project, but if it's not doing what the client asked you to do, it's not a success. So that's really where CommAgency came about. And we started with video because that's my background, but we also offer services in photography, graphic design, social media, and live production, as we're on StreamYard right now. Our live production team knows all about StreamYard and how to stream things out. So it's one of those things where, regardless of the skill set that the students have and that they want to pursue, we can pair them up with clients, give them that opportunity. And it's really been a win-win for our students, because ultimately my goal is to have them get jobs, right? It's, to be frank, college is not inexpensive. And so I think the students, not only do they want to have skills and real skills, but they want to be able to then get jobs. So this is one of those opportunities where, you know, they could have 1, 2, maybe even 3 years worth of work while they're in school. So they can have that leg up when they graduate of already having that kind of work experience.
So Catie, you got the CommAgency falls. Is it part of the university, or is it kind of something that's sitting on the outside and feeding into the students being able to work for and with the CommAgency? So is it integrated or is it not?
It's very integrated. So we're housed, CommAgency is housed in the Belisario College of Communications at Penn State. So all of our facilities, our equipment, our amazing space is in our Belisario Media Center. So we have an office space in there that the students can use. And what's great is we work primarily with other Penn State clients. So different colleges and departments will come to us and needing work. But we recently just started being able to work with local nonprofits and student startups. So really the students, our employees are Penn State students. They apply, we hire them, and then they work as Penn State employees, part-time employees, under the Penn State umbrella.
That's pretty interesting. So how did you manage to get into the university? I mean, what was the way in? I know you outlined it a little bit, but if somebody had to want to get into it and begin this sort of agency, I'm just trying to understand how it's set up, because it's very interesting.
Yeah, so it really started as an idea from our dean, Marie Harden, who wanted to create some sort of opportunity for our students, that kind of extracurricular activity, outside of this many student clubs and orgs that we have, but something that was a little more structured, that had a little bit more faculty influence and mentoring and training behind it. So I'm fortunate in that our leadership wanted to create this. I think if you wanted to create this in a university, and there are a number of PR-based agencies that exist in universities across the country that are fantastic. There aren't as many that include the production elements that we do. And a lot of that was from our leadership saying, roll with it. You know, I was pitching ideas and I'm like, I think we should do this. I think we should start with video and go here. And she's like, great, go do it. So it was a very welcoming environment for that. But I think anywhere that you would want to start this in a university, it's being able to explain to the leadership that this is really an experiential learning opportunity, is one of these, you know, buzzword phrases that we use. But it's true, because we've got students who get to experience what it's like in the real world to work with a client and get paid and have to meet all those deadlines and expectations. But it's in the safe environment where they're still learning. So they're still students, they may make mistakes. You know, they're going to learn from those. They're going to be bumps in the road, and it's okay to make those mistakes, as opposed to maybe on your first job where it's not as okay to make those mistakes. So to get started, I think it's being able to say to people, look at the value add of this. Our students are getting this experience in the classroom. We don't want them to walk out of here and say, yeah, I took these classes, but employers are like, okay, what does that mean? Whereas an employer can see something like CommAgency on a resume and the bullet points of I did this, 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 and this, and it feels a little more tangible.
Yeah, so it's much. I was just going to say it's far more tangible than doing a semester of you know, post production with Adobe Apps or whatever it is. It's hands-on experience. The biggest question I have is actually the clients that you get, though. Is the agency split up into, because it seems that you guys are a proper production agency, right? Are you pitching out, or is it just work that's just coming in? Are you actively pitching?
Yeah, so it's both. So we've been fortunate where we have a lot of returning clients and word of mouth, because even though Penn State is massive with 50,000 undergrads at University Park and tons of colleges and units, it's also very small, which is one of the things I'll tell my students, like, look, we've got to do a good job with this client, because this client may talk about us to other clients and say how great we are. Or if we don't do well, it may be a red flag, and we want to try and avoid that. So we've had that opportunity to have clients come to us, but we do openly put out that we're looking for clients. So whether it's through like our Penn State newsletter with all of our communicators, or reaching out to some of the nonprofits in town to say, hey, we have some openings in our fall semester or our spring semester. Because that's how we operate, is on a semester by semester basis. So we can say, you know, we're full for video, but we're taking photo clients, or we've got a spot open for graphic design client. But I'd say about 75% are people coming to us because they've heard how great the work is, which makes my job a lot easier, that's for sure.
So the students are put on, are they supervised with like a post-production supervisor, as an example? Are they upskilled? Are they learning as they go along? Or is it that you take in students that have a fair bit of experience? And I'll say post-production because that's where we kind of live. For example, if you look at, I'm sure you guys are using Adobe apps, right? Or am I
yes.
wrong? Maybe. Yep. So if you look at Premiere Pro and After Effects as classic examples, are you using students that are beginning to learn, or guys that are pretty much experienced, mid-level experience? And then are you employing people? Is Penn State and the agency employing people that are supervising that particular project? Because you might have a blue chip company, right, that wants something really cool. You might have a corporate, you might even have a TV commercial. And, you know, being a producer, you'll know what a TV commercial entails. It's a total nightmare, right? Logistically. The client sits there and makes 600 reverts and that kind of stuff. So it's nice to understand the structure. And I'm asking these questions because Miriam will explain to you in a slight bit why these questions are actually being asked. It's quite interesting that we happen to stumble across you because the model is something. Well, I'll let Miriam explain it in a bit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Do you want? I can.
No,
okay.
go
Yeah.
ahead,
So
please.
really, Mo, it's kind of all of the above. So
Okay.
it's in specifically just the video department, but really all of our departments are like this. So it's structured where I'm the director of CommAgency, so I'm overseeing all the departments, making sure that there's clients coming in and that the structure is working well and where we can grow and improve. But then each department has their own faculty manager who specialize in that area, spent their careers working in that area. So I'm the video manager, but we have others for each department, which is great because I know very little about social media and graphic design. Like, I know that I'd like something. That's about it. So I'm glad that we have those faculty managers. But within the structure, we have student executive positions. So each department has them, but in video, we have a pre-production and client executive who's working with our producers mainly. We have a production executive who's not only doing the equipment trainings with me and making sure everyone knows how to use the C100s and the booms and the lights, but is also mentoring our directors on the projects. And then we have a post-production exec as well as a student who is doing any kind of trainings on Premiere. We have a lot of students who are looking to delve into After Effects, so they're well-versed in that as well. And then they kind of help assist during the edit process. But from those we hire, honestly, a lot of what I'm looking for is that attitude and energy to want to be a part of this because it can get stressful at times and it can get frustrating. So if you have that passion, you want to be there, that to me is 85% of it. Sure. If you know how to use Premiere and you know how to use After Effects, maybe you're a junior or a senior in film, fantastic. But if you're in your second or third semester and you have that passion and you want to be a part of it, we'll hire you and train you. I mean, that's really a lot of the experience, is doing that training, and making sure that even if they already think they know how to do it, they don't necessarily know how to do it in a client environment and what that means. So
it's completely different in a client environment.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So
and who does your training? I mean, is it do you have a group of trainers that does it, that are kind of certified trainers, or how does it work? Is it because video? I come from the kind of same background, I guess. So it's almost self-taught, or do you guys have a faculty of people that actually upskill in proper courses? So 12-hour course for Premiere or 16-hour course in After Effects or 3-month. How does that work?
Yeah, so if the film students, depending on where they are in their education, will have had those classes, right? Our specific intermediate and advanced post-production classes. But some of our students who are coming from our other majors, maybe journalism, telecommunications, ad PR, who maybe have not used Premiere, we do those trainings. So myself and our post-production executive as a student, we oversee those. We talk before we do the training, but that's part of that leadership experience for those executives, is to learn how to do that training, how to do that mentoring, and they also help with a production team. So they're kind of almost EPing a production team. So they're getting that management leadership skill part of it. But we always make sure, because we do have people in Belisario who specialize in Premiere and the Adobe products. So something, for example, like when they just updated to 2022, and there were some changes in there that were new to us. So we had our people on staff help us to figure out what was different. Yeah, but it's really student run in the purest sense of that. Yeah.
Whoa, there were some changes in Premiere 2022.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's crazy. I mean, it's Miriam. I don't know why I'm in this country. It's insane. I should actually be. So the model is actually perfect. I mean, you can explain it to Catie. I think it's great, and it's a model that actually works. It's the same kind of incubator thing that we were talking about. So Catie, I think Miriam will tell you a little.
No,
bit.
okay. So I don't know what you're wanting me to say, but we are working to work with our schools in the schools. Yes.
I'm just going to kick in to say that one of the things I find interesting about this is the way that Miriam and I ran into Catie and her group is such a typical post process. We were down at NAB, National Association of Broadcasters, huge convention in Las Vegas every April. And first time it's been held in a couple of years. And this is the first time I talked Miriam to come in, and she wanted to do all these extra experiences. So she signed up for a lot of things I would never even look for, including being interviewed by this one group where they wanted a focus group to have people to.
Yeah, we were part of a focus group.
So we were in this focus group, and we're walking out of the meeting and going down the hall, and there's this person standing there, this young lady going, by the way, I'm a student at Penn State, and we're having a program in this room, and we would like to have an audience to have our program to. So could you come in and watch? And so we stepped in and watched and went in and sat down and went, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we need to be doing right now is looking at this presentation by these people from Penn State, because it's so much what we are about. So that's how we got to meet Catie, the serendipity type of thing that happens so much, and you need to jump on when it happens. So that's where this came from. And yes, Catie,
it was so funny.
Talk about is very much akin to the kind of thing that we would like to do with Creativity-Hive.
Right, which is really bringing that real life experience, and we're realizing that there's a need to enhance some of the programs in the schools, and so that's where we're headed.
We want to be
go ahead, sorry,
for both high schools and colleges to help them work with both the students and the staff, because it's got to be both. You have to have staff that know what they're doing, but at the same time, you've got to have students. And you're never going to have staff that are completely experienced at this. They're always going to be needing help and assistance. So we can provide that. And we love to.
So, Catie, what we kind of trying to do is exactly what you do. We've been working with, it's a model that's been tried and tested, but we're trying it, from a different perspective now, where we're looking at doing a kind of an incubator. We call it an incubator, right? You call it the agency. But it's exactly the same thing. So,
I'm writing that down. Incubator.
So the reason, at the pace that things are going, especially with video, right? So there's not many the TV commercials are kind of a thing of the past, really. They're dying a very, very quick death because of budgets. But more, importantly, is the larger agencies out there like the Ogilvy's and Saatchi's of the world are finding it very difficult at this point in time, because the output doesn't go to television anymore. It's going to social media, right? So the new age consumer wants 10 seconds worth of a video to get the message across. And it takes a very special type of person to make someone understand how to cut, or how to direct, or how to produce, or how to line produce, or how to all of them, I guess, right, in a basket, a 10-second video or 15-second video that gets a message across. It's insanely difficult. It might seem easy, but it's difficult, right? So if you look at Google, if you look at Apple, they're hiring people based on experience, they're not hiring them based on what their actual qualifications are. So the guy that's been shooting with a red camera for the last 2 years gets precedence over a guy that's got a master's degree in fine arts, whatever it is. Which is really about time that's happened, because experience actually does a lot more in today's age. So where we headed is, my kind of background is post-production, visual effects, but I directed a lot of commercials. I hate producing because that's not what it's too much of, what's producing is completely nuts. So you hire a producer, line producer. So I did a lot of TV commercials. I did a lot of short films and so forth. And then I went into post-production and visual effects. But I also lecture with and for Adobe. So the After Effects side. And then Neil does the coloring side and the colorist side, and then the post-production on Premiere. And then we also go out into DaVinci Resolve and certain other pieces of software like Cinema 4D and so forth. So what we're looking at doing is the same kind of thing in universities, and hopefully kind of do it where most universities come along and say, hey, this would be a good idea, like, what you guys are doing. So the model needs to be kind of recreated. So perhaps we can get into a conversation about this. The one thing that we're doing that kind of sets it apart, which I haven't heard you mention, is we do a thing called a boot camp, and we're about to do a thing that's been tried before and tested, and it's worked pretty well. A boot camp is, and maybe this is an idea for you, something that you kind of do over a weekend or 3 to 4 days, where you take the staff and you take the students that want to kind of enroll in this boot camp. You give them their phones, or you give them cameras if you have. You take them to a location and you tell them to shoot. Just whatever they want, really. Just let them shoot, right? And then you bring them back on day 2. Let them understand what post-production is and how to get the workflow right in Premiere. Day 3 is now you tell your story. And that's the most difficult part. So then they go, holy God, I was shooting seagulls all the time. It was just birds in the air, and the other guy says, well, I was shooting the beetles on the grass and and then they need to stitch it together. And it's really interesting because it's a really hands-on experience where people understand that they can tell a story using just a phone, which is what the norm is right now. I mean, iPhone 13 Pro is shooting like a red. So that's what we kind of want to do. I think Miriam will maybe touch base with you about perhaps having a chat in the near future about some kind of cool stuff that you got. I love what you do. I would love to see a little bit more. I'm not sure if you have a URL that we can tap into and have a look at. Maybe some stuff that's completed work. And I think Miriam, if it works with Catie, I think she's done an insanely good job. It must have been a lot of hard work and a lot of stress getting to this point. I just
pretty
imagine
amazing.
the red tape. Yeah. So that's what Creativity-Hive is kind of striving for, a hands-on approach to creative learning. And there's not many places that's kind of doing that right now. It's textbook A to Z, openness. And what happens is with the staff members as well, is that because it's almost a curriculum-based thing, they teach people what they need, they think they need. But when you upskill the staff to think creatively, that's when the whole thing, it's a kind of paradigm shift. The whole thing just changes because they're excited about the students. They're excited about what can be done with software and cameras and phones and stuff. So that energy spills over. And I'm kind of talking to the converted here. I'm preaching to the converted because you do exactly this, which is I commend you guys for. So that was kind of the questions I had earlier about how it's going. And how long have you guys been in this roughly 2 years, 5 years?
So 5 years. So I was hired in August of 2016 to kind of get this up and running. And then we officially launched with video services in January 2017. There were about 12 students, 3 clients. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're going with it. And then we learned a lot of lessons that first semester, and quickly started adding on those different services. For now, we have the 5 different services and anywhere between about 50 to 55 students involved in the whole agency between those 5 departments. So it's really grown quite a bit. But I think, to your point about getting that education out and that boot camp approach, I just came off of a high school film camp that I helped to co-run, that Belisario put on last week. It was a 5-day camp or so with high school students who, I was floored by just how much editing experience with the softwares and stuff they were coming in with. And even the production knowledge, they maybe didn't use our cameras, but they've been using their phones. And they really were so fast at it. And some of the students are asking me about DaVinci, and I'm like, okay, let's slow down, and that was day 2. And they're like, can we use DaVinci and After Effects? I'm like, let's make sure you have a story. But that's where I think you were saying that, trying to form the story. And that's where I think, something like CommAgency or these incubator experiences you're talking about are that leg up for those students who take part in that, because there are a lot of people who think that they're content creators because they know how to hit record, and maybe they know how to use Premiere, but probably not really. you know, but there's that element to it, but they don't know the storytelling part. They don't know what it takes to, whether it's for a client or not, how to actually tell an interesting story that people are going to care about. And they're going to want to, in case of a client work, have that call to action at the end to do something. And that's where they separate themselves. And that's where I think having these opportunities are so critical, because in a flooded marketplace where it sounds like on paper, anyone can sound good, having those actual experience and saying, I did this, I created this, I had this challenge I overcame and my group overcame. That's the difference to me. If I were hiring, that I would want to look at. And when I was hiring back at WPSU, I wanted you to be like, tell me this concrete example. Give me something more than just, I did this in school or something, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you know, story is, that emphasis on story is something that is, having come from a stills background, was the thing that really was the shock for me when I first started video a number of years back. Was the story is everything, and whether you're the videographer doing the shooting, you're the sound person on set, you're the editor, you're doing color, you're doing graphics, whatever you're doing, everything is based on having a story to work with. And so it means that everybody has to learn about story and how to do it. How to, if you're the sound person, what sounds, you're not there just to capture the interview. You need room sound. You need sounds of people doing various things, because they're probably going to try and have B-roll. So you need to figure out what kind of things might go with this story that you need to record separately. The camera guy, you're not just interviewing the person who's setting up a camera in the room. You need shots of the office or the buildings or whatnot, you know, and it's like this all through the process. And that's one of the biggest things that people don't get early on, is how crucial story is. It's everything.
Yeah.
The other thing, Catie, is that, and again, you'd understand this, I'm sure, is that there's different forms of storytelling, right? And I learned this it was a very difficult learning experience for me, because, you know, we shot a TV commercial, and it was 2 days worth of shooting. It was a large client from Germany, and they asked me to edit my very first TV commercial, right? And I had hours worth of footage of a car. It was a car, right? And I'm like, okay, cool. So I tried to get this thing with continuity done. And you know, when you're doing a TVC, there's no continuity really. You got to just get that message across. And I tried for an hour, and the agency guys are sitting right next to me from Germany. I'm like, what do I do here? I don't know what. Oh my God, how do I? There's the car's here, and then it's in another location. This is going to look weird. So if it was on a resume that you've got your master's degree in editing or whatever it is, that holds very little water compared to the experience of having to understand how to cut a TV commercial or a short story or a documentary. Is quite a different beast altogether. And then there's long form, which most people think they can cut long form, but it's a total, absolute art form, and it's a nightmare, of note, if you're not used to it, right?
I remember when I first started my career in long form doc, I was like, how do I write how do I know how much stuff I need for an hour-long doc? I'm like, I don't know what to do. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We have a special guest. Yeah. Hello. Fast asleep and just ran. Yeah. I'm so sorry. So
okay,
I think
we're totally distracted here.
I'm sorry. So just ignore the screen. Okay. So I think understanding, you know, giving the students that first-hand experience of understanding how to shoot, but more importantly, what to shoot, when to shoot, and how does it actually, from a production point of view, being a producer, you'll understand that right at the beginning there's a script, right? And most of the guys out right now don't understand what a script is. They can't even write. I can't write a script, but they got to get to the point in their minds where they can physically understand what the final picture is going to be. And most don't understand it. They just go out and shoot random stuff, put some cool music to it, and make it look good, and it gets lost in obscurity. Nobody gets to see, you know. So what I think what you guys are doing is really great. I would love to see some stuff if possible. I've dropped you a link, LinkedIn Connect. to see how the final products have come out and what your process is and how you go through it. And I'd love to continue this conversation at some point
Yes.
with both you,
So,
Miriam and Neil. Yeah.
We're going to
Yeah.
continue this conversation after we're done with the broadcast. How about that? So, Catie,
Cool.
I said, what are some tips if you had like 3 top tips for people that are just starting out? What advice would you give?
Yeah, so I was thinking a lot about this, and honestly, I realize these are tips I give my students all the time, and I think that they're probably something you all will be able to relate to as well. The first one is particularly for students who are just starting out, or anyone who's just starting out in their careers after graduating college or whatever it is. Don't expect your first job to be your dream job. It may be far from it, but I think in this era now of social media and things, and it sounds like everyone's working at the most amazing place. Don't worry so much about that. Find a job that, one, pays, and two, is maybe, can be a stepping off point. Maybe it's going to teach you a skill that'll then get you to where your goal is. So that's the first one. Don't assume your first job has to be your dream job. The second one is really knowing that your skills and your time have value. I think in a lot of communication-based graduates, they're used to interning for free, or, oh, can you do me this favor?
Yes.
Yeah. And it's stuff where even if you've just graduated, you have skills and you should be paid for those, and if you want to work for free, do that. If it's something to build your portfolio or a nonprofit you support, go right ahead. But don't think that you have to work for free or charge next to nothing just because you're new, because you do have those skills. And my third one would be kind of what I feel like has been a bit of a theme throughout this, is just being open to those opportunities, even if they seem scary, even if they seem outside of your realm of skills or your comfort zone. Like, just say yes and give them a try. You never know. In my case of the job I'm in now, you all coming into our session at NAB and getting to know you, just, you never know who you'll meet and who that community that you're going to build. So just don't be worried that you might look silly, just give it a chance.
Right.
Awesome. That is a great ending. Thank you so much. Stick around after we sign off here, because we'd love to have a little after party.
Yes, and if anyone is interested, I know Mo mentioned it, but we do have a website, CommAgency.psu.edu, that has a portfolio of all of our work on it. So,
and from the program that Miriam and I saw there at NAB, we were pretty impressed with both the staff and the students, because they had several students that were talking about what they were doing, everything from the videography through post-production, and one gal that served more as a producer type. And I was very impressed with how they were working with them on everything up through and including, no, the client is frequently not right, but the client always pays the bill. So,
yes.
Catie, I have one last question before we go off. Which speaks to your second point about, which is what is happening in the industry, and it's happening for a long time, where guys are told, well, do this and you can add it to your show reel. We don't have budget for it. It's the age-old thing, right? I've been through it. Most of us have been through this, so I understand it. My question to you, or what advice could you give in a world that's completely saturated with people looking for this sort of skill set? How do you say, okay, I can do it, but this is my rate. The first piece of advice was never undervalue yourself, but you've got so much of competition, and that's where it becomes really scary, which the client understands and takes full advantage of, right? And says, well, you're still new and you haven't got a huge reel, so do this for me, and you can use it for your reel. How do you get to tell that client, or what advice do you have to the students or the guys that are beginning, and even the experienced guys? It's happening to a lot of guys now. Do you just say no and walk away, or what do you do? from your perspective?
Yeah, my opinion would be, in terms of having stuff to add to your reel, like I think that's stuff that can happen outside of jobs that are paying you. I again, unless it's a cause or a nonprofit that someone's really passionate about and they're willing to do it, sure. But to me, this idea of like, oh, you can add it to your reel. All right, well, I can film whatever I want and add it to my reel. It's
Right.
my reel.
Yeah.
So what is that giving me versus you? Like you're getting free content where I would maybe charge $50, $60, $100 an hour, depending. So I know it can be scary and it's much easier said than done, if you've got bills and stuff like that, but those bills are going to be there whether you're working for free or not, So my thought would be, and sometimes it's scary and you may have to get a job. Like my first job was working front desk at a hotel in State College during football weekends, which was the worst experience ever. But it motivated me to be like, I don't want to keep doing this. And to do those things on the side that then I was able to have that reel. But I've still paid my bills. So I think it's a matter of trusting yourself a little bit and maybe even doing a little bit, looking at the market and saying like, yeah, I know my stuff is better than this. So, and the good clients will recognize that also. And they'll recognize that not only are you good technically, but if you're a good person to work with and you're on time and you're reliable and you're creating great stuff, you'll get rehired. You don't have to work for free.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Awesome. Well, say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.